Hey, Break Timers, welcome back to the next episode of the Break Time University podcast. Joined today again by David Nour. We're going to talk a lot about some artificial intelligence, but also interact with some of David's key teachings and some of the great leaders he's met along his journey. Today's episode brought to you by Odyssey, functional energy that will power your day, and seen here today exclusively on Break Time TV. So listen in and enjoy. Break Timers, it's Patrick McMullan, and we are back for the next Break Time U podcast. We are joined by David Nour. Everybody calls him Nour, but one of the most interesting guys you ever meet. David, welcome back to Break Time U.
Patrick, it's good to be with you.
So, in our previous episode, we were talking about motorcycle rides, which, again, if we're playing, what does David Nour like to do? I don't know that, and it's no disrespect to you, but I don't. I love talking about it because you have traveled all over the globe on that bike, all over the country. Now you're going on some other trips, and you've been a lot of different places. And before we dive into a few other things, some of your favorite places to go. You've got amazing background, but you've seen a lot of different places. Favorite places, least favorite, favorite airports, ones you hate.
Yeah. No, I'm reminded of and for your audience, I'm a big fan of ever since I can remember. As kids, we traveled extensively, and there's a quote by Saint Augustine who says, "The world is a book, and those who do not travel read only one page." So I'm mesmerized that something like less than 27% of Americans had passports before it was required for Mexico and Canada, which means, we and again, US is a beautiful country, vast country. Um, and you can go and see a lot of amazing places just in our own, your own country. But the day you get on a plane, and it's a choice, and decide to go to a foreign country, to a foreign land, I think it just opens up all kinds of chapters and pages in that book. So I got to tell you, some of my favorite places, the pyramids of Egypt are just Patrick mesmerizing. If you go to Petra, which is in Jordan, and a city almost a couple thousand years old is carved into these mountains, it's stunning. And Jerusalem, our faith is really important to us, and to go to Jerusalem, like old Jerusalem, and walk where Christ did, is again just the hair on your arms got to stand up. I've been blessed to go to Sydney, Australia, and I've been to Bali, which is you go to Philippines and Singapore, and yeah, I've been to Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, with the Petronas Towers are again just an engineering marvel. So between Europe, between just kind of different parts of the world, Dubai. First time I went to Dubai was in the 70s with my parents, and there was nothing there. Now you go to Dubai and it feels like another planet.
Different
So
places.
so I've
Sure.
been blessed. Yeah, I've been to some amazing places that just, I believe when you travel well, when you enjoy traveling, it just feeds itself. Like I've been to Beijing, I've been to Hong Kong and Shanghai, but I haven't spent as much time in Asia. I haven't spent as much time in Latin America. I want to go to Patagonia. I want to go to, a lot of those really fascinating places. Iceland. I've heard Iceland and a lot of those places are just stunning. So the bucket list. I don't need more stuff in my life. I'm looking for more experiences, and the places I've been have been just they leave, Patrick, an indelible imprint on you, and you stand in front of Eiffel Tower and you're in awe. You stand in front of the Great Wall in China and you're in awe. We went through where Genghis Khan had broken through, and an amazing opportunity to go see the world, and I'm a big fan of it.
Well, you've seen a lot of different places and a lot of different things because of your travels. But just a lighthearted note, maybe you don't want to bus drive the cities, but some of the worst airports that you've ever been in. I bet if we made a list here, we'd probably match up a few pretty quick.
Oh
But
my gosh. I got to tell you, really, really pleasantly surprised because JFK was just was god awful for years. And I
Mhm.
had to fly in there recently, and it's beautiful. It is not only brighter and shinier, but they've reconfigured it, and it really is nice. So I would highly encourage people, if you're in the Metro New York area, JFK is great. Patrick, I've been through some really rough ones. Again, some of them in other parts of the world. I went to Baku in Azerbaijan, and unfortunately, I connected through Charles de Gaulle in Paris, and they lost my luggage. I went to meet, mom and dad who live in Iran, and they came to visit, and I didn't have any of my stuff for 4 or 5 days, and you got to go buy new clothes again, and you need to buy a
Right.
toothbrush and toothpaste and undergarments, and so I've had my fair share of planes, trains, and automobiles, but
Sure.
I live in Atlanta. If you try to do business in the Northeast in the winter, you got to be prepared because of the storms. I've spent an entire day in the Atlanta airport because, 30 some odd flights to the Northeast have gotten canceled. If Conversely, you try to fly to Atlanta in the summer, and we have torrential downpours almost every day, and good chance you're gonna run into those. But you learn like anything else, and you're gonna love this. One of my litmus tests for great relationships is how people deal with adversity, and if they lose their cool, if they get all flustered, none of us have any control over that weather. None of us have any control. Yeah, do I want my airline to have their planes maintained properly? And, it's like a long distance phone call. I don't want to know how it works, especially for business. I want to get there. I want to get on the plane. I want to get to my destination and get on with my business.
Yeah.
People who just lose their minds because of something like nobody has any control over, it just really screams out professional immaturity. It screams that either you haven't been around long enough or you haven't lived long enough to learn how to adapt to, again, I'm coming from a part of the world that's, let's just say, not very trusted, and connecting through Europe to come back to the U.S. And that, of course, in when you're checking your luggage, and where they're asking where you're coming from, and you tell them this part of the world, and they take you in a separate room, and they want to look through all your luggage, and because of where you're coming from. And so you gotta be able to roll with it. You can't, and this is something that I've learned in later years. You can't get upset. You cannot lose your cool. Losing your cool means you might end up in jail. And
Yeah.
I've
Especially
never
in an
been in
airport.
I've never been to a Turkish jail. I don't think I want to go. I've never been to a jail in Amsterdam. I don't think I want to go. Right? So, yeah, keeping your cool, keeping it in perspective. As I think my dad drove into me, it's never as bad as you think, and it's never as good as you think. So
Sure.
if you keep that perspective, it will go a long way in your personal and your professional life, but particularly with travel.
Well, I remember one of the most memorable airport delays of all time is when I was sitting at a gate and we had been delayed a couple hours and the weather was pretty nasty in Denver.
Mm.
And that is not a place I don't, there was just a social media post the other day that D Denver International was shut down due to winds. And it was planes were circling for an hour and a half, getting tossed around. And they're so this guy sits down next to me at the airport and he's just had it. He's just pissed and he's talking to me all about it. And I said, I don't know about you, but I'm really not interested in trying to fly out in that because it's not going to be a fun ride. And where we're supposed to go also has a bunch of weather, and I don't feel like sitting in the air getting tossed around like a salad. So I'd rather sit here and read my book and talk to my wife and not worry about it.
In a safe, on the ground, in a safe structure, right?
Yeah,
But Patrick, you travel enough. I've been involved with a plane that gotten hit by bird, like a bird strike,
sure.
which is scary. I've had planes go off the end of the runway into mud, and we had to have emergency vehicles come and try to get it out. So you travel enough. I've gone through some really scary
Mhm.
turbulence.
Yeah.
You just you gotta again. This is if you choose to try if you choose to that the book quote I brought up. If you choose to turn the page and see what's in the rest of those pages and chapters, and if you wanna read the whole book, you got to be willing to put up with the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah.
And to this day, I'm a U.S. citizen. I have a U.S. passport, but in it, there's a place of birth, it says Iran. And you wouldn't believe how often I'm questioned by immigration, right? When was the last time in Iran? Do you have any family? I mean, and rightfully, they're doing their job. But if you don't have anything
Right.
to hide, no problem. Ask away whatever you want. I haven't been to Iran in 20 plus years, right? So again, but it's a testament to something I mentioned earlier, which is grit and resilience and your ability to adapt to very different circumstances, many of which you have no control over. So it tells you a lot when you travel with a colleague, when you try how well they travel also tells you. Here's a tip for you and your listeners. For years, I have an American Express card, and
Sure.
there's a service you can buy that's called baggage protection,
Hmm.
and you pay a fee for every ticket you buy, whether you check luggage or not. But if your bags are delayed more than, I want to say, 2 to 4 hours, you get to spend a certain amount of money and you get reimbursed. If your bags are delayed overnight, it's a much bigger amount. So in Kabul, I was able to go buy the clothes and the toiletries I needed because
Hmm.
that ticket I had bought on my Amex and I got reimbursed for it. So you learn these hacks. You learn I belong to the airline clubs and you learn how to make the best. What do they say? You make lemonade when you're handed lemons.
Yeah.
You make the best out of that situation. And that's a mindset that I think a lot of people could bring to their jobs, could bring to their projects, could bring to their home life, could bring. We've had several days of torrential downpour here in Atlanta. I've got a ceiling in a bathroom that's leaking. You take pictures, you go get a roofer that you like and trust, and they'll get it fixed. But getting worked up over this stuff is just I'm telling you, I think the older we get, the more you realize life's too short to really get flustered by these things, and that cooler, calmer heads always prevail.
Well, which kind of gives us it's a good transition because we've spent a little time the last couple episodes, folks, getting to know Noor. That should almost maybe be the title, getting to know Noor. And you could use that in your intro at the Relationship Economics Summit. But
Mm.
all that said, you speak for a living, amongst other things. We're going to talk a little bit about everything you do. But you, I bet, have had some in your travels. You do about 50 keynotes a year, and you've probably had some great experiences and ones you go, whoa, did I have to have a comeback?
Mm.
Share a couple of them.
Yeah, so I'm a storyteller and I love to show pictures. So I'm gonna share a couple pictures with your audience. This is I for several years I've been an adjunct faculty at my old alma mater, Emory University in Atlanta. And Patrick, I think if you want to speak professionally, it takes the right mindset. And again, a mentor drove this into me years ago. It's not about you on that stage, on any stage. Your job is to be Yoda. Your job is to help your audience connect the dots between what they know today with what they want to know, where they are today with where they want to go. And so I'm blessed that through these experiences, I've spoken to. Here's one that you like. How about some 25,000 people at a Las Vegas Convention Center? Right? When you
Yep.
speak at places like this, you're in awe because as far as you can see are people, and they're there to kind of hear your message. They're there to kind of listen to what you're saying. So some of these, again, most amazing experiences have been, chance to share, your wisdom. This, on behalf of IBM, this was in Monaco, the country. and I flew into Nice, France, and a helicopter picks me up and takes me to Monaco for this engagement. So again, you're blessed that beyond those, it's a great opportunity to get on various stages and share your expertise. And I got to tell you, one of my favorite opportunities are the people you meet. In the middle is now is become a dear friend, but General Tom Bostic is the former chief of Army Corps of Engineers. Patrick, $380 billion annual budget. Imagine, I mean, these guys rebuild New Orleans after Katrina. Uh,
Right.
and
Right.
next to him is a rear admiral that leads up, all the construction and all those bases of naval bases. So you get a chance to meet a lot of amazing folks. This is let me go to the previous one. That's Marshall Goldsmith, one of my mentors. This is the biannual Thinkers 50 Gala in London, and you get a chance to again meet some amazing thinkers in that world, and kind of spend some time with them. This is one of my favorites. This one was in Cancun, Mexico, and it was for a contingency of Latin American executives. And what was really cool was back of the room, they had these, for lack of a better word, a phone booth where inside are real-time translators.
Wow.
As you may have seen in the UN,
Yep.
because they speak Spanish, they speak Portuguese, they speak, multiple dialects, and I'm delivering my keynote in English, and in real time, translators take what they hear in English and they're translating it to the native language of a lot of these attendees. So that was fascinating, and that was a really cool experience. This is another Thinkers 50, and you kind of start to build relationships. This was for Samsung, the global phone company, and I decided to grow a little facial hair. Patrick, I would not recommend facial hair for men of Middle Eastern descent, right? A, that just doesn't go well because every airport security wants to talk to you. And B, when they're all, if it's all black and maybe even salt and pepper, that's not bad. But when it's all white, you feel 20
Yeah.
years older than you really are. So
Yeah.
those are just some of the highlights of I've been blessed to speak. You're right, 50, 60 times a year. Do the math for going on, almost 20 years. You get a chance to. So some of the highlights, some of the lowlights, or the challenging ones. I spoke once in Seattle, Washington, and 5 minutes into my speech, we had an earthquake,
Holy smokes.
and the chandelier literally starts shaking in this ballroom. Next thing you know, the fire marshal comes in, and they have to evacuate a ballroom of 5,000 people. And we all went outside. And the best part was, they gave us the all clear. We came back in with 5 minutes left in my speech. So I just jumped into in conclusion, and then of course the audience laughs. And I said, listen, I'm sorry I didn't get a chance to share the whole message. And we actually scheduled follow on, and virtual wasn't as prevalent back then, but I used a web meeting kind of a platform to do a virtual keynote. So that was one. Um, in one speech in South Africa, the military came in and they
Wow.
escorted one of the audience members out for apparently some less than favorable dealings. So that was an interesting one. I'm like, when military comes in, your first impression, it wasn't me. It wasn't.
Right.
I didn't do it. It wasn't me. But they literally came and escorted one of the audience members out of my speech, out in they wanted to talk to this guy. So those are in Dubai. You might remember we had a chance to meet
Mhm. Yeah.
Sheikh, the Emirates ruler. So that was a fascinating experience. So those are again, you just kind of you do this long enough, and you go through some of the ups and some of the more challenging ones. And of course during the pandemic, that's probably a real low point. So again, was sharing. So you start to deliver keynotes in places like this, where you're in a green screen, and I get a lot of
Yeah.
my energy from the audience, and when there's no audience and you're just doing it through this Hollywood square, it just becomes really difficult. And I don't think the energy is quite there yet, and it just becomes increased. The technology was there, but it's not the same. You don't get a chance to connect with people.
Well, you just kind of all the different things of what we all dealt with. That's a whole episode, and we'll make that our next one. But what you talk about is invaluable. It's the premise for how we built the whole Break Time TV, Break Time U is leveraging relationships. And in your book, Relationship Economics, it's the relationship pyramid is something that's golden because it really. I don't care what you do for a living, folks. If you're watching this does apply to you because you have people that fall into one of four categories: situational, investment, portfolio, or the 2 a.m. person. And when we say 2 a.m., that's not, your mother or your mom, even though, yes, they are 2 a.m.ers, but we're talking about where do you want to go in life? What are you trying to do to build your career? And that's what he talks about many things. David talks about a lot of stuff, but it really comes down to, is it fair to say that's the staple as to what you do? And, explain a little bit how you foster and, everybody that falls into that. What do you do to keep those people as your biggest fan?
Yeah, it's a great question. And one of the challenges, Patrick, and opportunities with our relationships is truly the quantity. Think of how many people we all meet in any given year between, our neighborhoods or our churches or synagogues or what kind of the personal side of our lives. We might go to a festival or we might go out to dinner with friends. And so there's a lot of people that cross our lives on any given year, personally and professionally. The challenge is the Dunbar number says that an average individual can proactively manage about 100 to 150. That's it. That's all we have the capacity, the mental capacity to proactively nurture. So then the $1 million question becomes which ones? And how do you know? And if the audience has heard any of my previous episodes or if they've read any of my work, they know that I'm a big believer in that every relationship is an investment of time, of effort, of resources, right? You got to make time to go meet people for coffee. You got to make time to go spend time with them. You got to make time and effort to go out of your way to see them, maybe sit and listen to their struggles, their challenges, what they're going through, and just if nothing else, don't try to fix it. Try to be human, try to listen. The challenge is, we cannot, we don't have enough hours in the day to invest in everybody equally.
Mhm.
So how do you then prioritize which relationships you invest in? And again, for our audience, I've been blessed. I've read over 100 books on business relationships, and I couldn't find a scale that showed me that, I know some people better or deeper than others. Patrick and I go back almost 10 years. So we've spent time together. We've broken bread together.
Yeah.
Other people, I just met someone at an event, a week ago. I barely know her, right? I know her name, I know her company, and that's it. So what I came up with, so I couldn't find a scale that helped me organize or prioritize my relationships. So I spend a lot of time, I think best on my feet and a whiteboard, and I started thinking about this idea of depth and relevance. How well you know someone and how deeply do you know them? How intimately do you know them? And it's not a hey, we went and had a drink once. It's oh my God, I've known Patrick for 10 years. And here's the interesting part. We've been through ups, we've been through downs. Believe it or not, the ups and downs deepen the relationship. They make it even more authentic. But if
Hmm.
you think of depth and relevancy, again, the very bottom is what we call situation. They come, they go. You never know where and how these there could be people from kids soccer camp. There could be people that you meet in the hallways or you meet at a trade show or some sort of an event, right? You never know. So my suggestion there is be kind. People will remember your kindness. People will remember that more than anything else. And it doesn't take that much effort to smile. It doesn't take that much effort to open a door for someone or keep an elevator open. but be nice. It's not that much of an effort, and people will remember that. Next group, we call investment. You actually invest time and effort to get to know them over a cup of coffee. Maybe you travel with them. Maybe you work closely and they're in finance, you're in accounting. They're in service department, you're in sales. But you spending more time with someone allows you to get to know them better. And you ask questions like, "Hey man, are you from this area? Where'd you grow up? What did your parents do?" You kind of get to know each. Maybe they come over the house for barbecue, right? But you're getting to know them. You're investing more time and effort. The very next group we call portfolio. These are your subject matter experts. They're the best mechanic you know. They're the best plumber you know. They're the best financial advisor you know. They're subject matter experts in that area of your life, and they have deep expertise, deep relationships, and they are your go-to people. If I want to know anything about the break room business, you're the first person I'm calling because you have such a depth in that and relationships and expertise. And as a matter of fact, I've sent you, videos that I've found, and you're like, that guy doesn't know garbage about
Yep.
break time business because that you can sift through noise and signal, right? What's just noise, or oh my gosh, that's a signal. So that, and then you're very pinnacle of everybody we call your 2 a.m.s. People you really could call 2 in the morning, and the first question is, are you okay? So I don't want the audience to get caught up on terminology. Use A, B, C, or D if you want. But the reason I build a pyramid and the reason I bring it up, you cannot ask something of someone who is in your A category, let's say at 2 a.m., that only an investment could deliver, or vice versa.
Hmm.
How many people have you and I met where they ask for a favor where they haven't earned the right to do so? When people look for a job, they do this all the time, right?
Right.
Patrick, would you please drop everything else you're doing personally and professionally to introduce me to your top 50 relationships?
Yeah. The LinkedIn, it's the, yeah, all the
Right?
time.
They may not say it in so many words, but that's exactly what they're expecting. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I haven't heard from you in years. When was
Right.
the last time you called to ask how I'm doing? When was the last time you reached out to ask how my kids are, how my wife is, right? So people do this all the time. I recently had, and I got to tell you, in a not so pleasant way, I'm shocked by this, that business professionals do this all the time. I meet a guy through our church at a men's prayer retreat. We were roommates. We hit it off. We talk. Where are you from? Where are you from? What do you work? Where do you work? What about your kids? Right? We do all that. See him at church a couple of times. Several email exchanges. We finally schedule lunch. I pick the lunch place. I take him a signed copy of one of my books. I pay for lunch. I ask him about how I can help him. Patrick, not once does he ask, what can I do to help you? How can I assist you? How can I be of service to you? How
Right.
can I improve your? None of those. So I'm leaving this lunch and I'm telling you, I'm having an out of body experience. Is he so clueless that it just doesn't dawn on him that this has to be reciprocal?
Right.
And I should, if this guy's just bought my lunch and brought me a signed book, maybe I should ask, what can I do to help you? None of us are an island. We all need each other.
Right.
And you've
Right.
heard and you've heard me talk about relationship givers, relationship takers, and relationship investors. And my question of your audience, which one are you? So the way I stay in touch with my relationships, some you want to automate, right? A whole bunch of people get my newsletter or they follow me on social and they get value from me that way. The next group, I make sure I touch base with at least once a quarter. I have it in my system. I have a system that works for me. At a minimum, once a quarter, I'm reaching out. Hey, Tom, Sam, Steve, I haven't talked to you in a while. I make sure I stay in touch. The next group, once a month. You and I talk more often than that, right? There's some people at a minimum, once a month, I want to talk to Patrick. How you doing? How's your bride? How are those beautiful girls? What's going on with, right, grandkids? And right, we make sure we stay in touch and we stay in
Right.
touch in each other's lives. The very pinnacle doesn't have a time requirement, but I make sure that I stay in touch with them. I make sure I don't ever do anything to make them look bad. I make sure that I'm adding value, even though they don't need anything from me. but I make sure that I protect those people at all costs. But that's how I organize and prioritize my relationships.
Well, the reality is, David, is that why you've excelled in life, why you are where you are, why you speak on stages, why you coach Fortune 50 executives and beyond is because of that systematic, consistent, always do it. It's relationship first, business second. And as you recognize very, very well, better than anybody I know, is the what's important to them is what's I need to find out first. What's in it for the really make them the point of discussion. But eventually, like you said, and it's, I mean, you and I have had this conversation where if I probably look at myself, I waste time with some people that absolutely are going to do nothing for what they are, that person that's calling for help me either get a job, you hire me, or get me into this, but they will do nothing for you in return. And those folks are the time suck of life. And you've working on something that I think is as we get to the end of this segment, that's really important is not only do you live it, not only do you talk of it, but you're now automating. You've talked about automating, but you've built something that's you're in the beta stage now that you have big visions for. Talk about Avenir.
Yeah, again, for our audience, it's amazing how Patrick brought up motorcycles. And if you listen to the previous episode, I've only been riding for about 10, 12 years, but I've been to 18 different schools for roughly 50 full days of training, all kinds of training. I wanted to get really proficient at riding motorcycles, but also I've been to a mechanic school to take them apart, put them back together. And it's incredibly humbling when you embark on a new journey. And a friend of mine talks a lot about this, and she says you got to be willing to be really bad at something. The first time you build something, you're not going to be great at it. Your first workout, you're not going to be great at it. The first time you try any, if you ever try going sailing, I'm surprised more people don't capsize the boat, right? Just because, first time you try anything, you're going to be really bad at it. But if you're willing to be bad at something, then you truly are living that growth mindset. You're living that opportunity to learn and grow. So to answer your question, yeah, for 22 years, I've been blessed to write, speak, coach, do leadership development. You kind of know that legacy portfolio is what I'm calling it now. A couple years ago, I heard the executive director of the AI Hub at Georgia Tech. This is a former Google fellow, really bright professor, Larry Heck, talk about AI as a teammate, not a tool. So if you think about it, we use Microsoft Excel or Word or PowerPoint or Outlook. Any of these things are tools for us to do a job. What if AI was able to both understand, actually execute a set of tasks, and improve on it each time it did it? So now I'm not using AI to do my job. AI is actually doing the work for me. So the light bulb went off. If you think about relationships, a lot of it is very mundane. A lot of it is organizing and following up and keeping up with people. And a really good test for your audience is think about all your contacts that you have that are outdated because people change jobs or they moved. And we all have great intentions, but many of us don't go back and clean up those contacts. And I still have email addresses for a client that left that job 3 years ago, right? Or you move and you still have all your old neighbors in your phone, right? So the light bulb went off. What if we built a library of AI agents that ingested, brought in all of your contacts from regardless of where they are? I don't want to do, in 2025, I don't want to do manual entry. What if it was able to ingest your email, your calendar, spreadsheets, LinkedIn, right? Your phone, right? But ingest all of those contacts into a personal vault. And I called it a vault because those relationships are sacred to me. They're really important to me. They're valuable to me. And again, not just work, but my church friends and my neighbors and my motorcycle buddies and people I go fly fishing with, right? All of these people in one place. And by the way, I have you on my phone. I have some information about you in my phone. I have other information in email. I have you in my calendar. We're connected on LinkedIn. So most of us, our contacts are scattered. They're outdated. They're not organized or prioritized in any meaningful way. And most importantly, based on our stated goals, I'm trying to grow my business. I'm trying to grow my startup to the next phase. Who of everybody I know, who should I focus on? You remember the 100,
Yeah.
150 people I just talked about?
Yeah.
Who should be those top 100, 150 people? So that was the vision of imagine if your audience saw the Tony Stark Iron Man movies.
Sure.
In one of them, he has Jarvis, which is his, fully automated system. We're building Jarvis for your relationships. That's the easiest way to think about it. So the company's called Avenir. It's a French derivative, means new heights, new beginnings. And we believe, so we're now in beta. It is an incredibly humbling experience. I was really bad at it. I think I've gotten a little bit better, but I'm still really bad at it. But friends like you who believe in me and believe in our team and believe in our vision, we now have 15 customers, paying customers. We have beta out there, people using it, and we're learning something every day. And what I think a lot of people are mesmerized by what AI can do. What they don't realize is the incredibly difficult environment you need to teach this agent, to teach this. Imagine a summer intern, right? A sharp young man or young woman that might be in high school, might be probably in middle school, and is coming to intern with your company. Now, they're sharp, they know a lot, but they're just very green and they don't have a lot of experience and they don't understand the business context of what you're trying to do. That's exactly where AI is today. So we are constantly buying data, we're getting access to different data because you need a lot of data to train these AI engines on how to do this in a stable, reliable, consistent manner. But I'm incredibly energized. I'm excited. Patrick, you're gonna chuckle. I don't think I've ever worked as hard. I don't think I've ever put in as many hours. I told you they're not even turning gray
Yeah.
anymore. They're just leaving. The
You
hair is
go.
just leaving. But I'm up, early every day. I'm working late. It really is. There's a reason it's called, sweat equity because
Yeah.
you really do put in a lot of effort. But I'm excited. I'm energized. We've got a great team, and we're making some really good progress. Like most founders, it's never fast enough. As a matter of fact, I have a sign in front of me that says, "If you're not embarrassed by what you put out there, you've waited too long."
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we're learning, we're growing, we're excited about it, and we believe this could be a really impactful approach to something that I think every professional needs. I think every professional could benefit from. We're just taking it one step at a time, make sure we do it right and we do it well.
Well, I'm going to kind of ducktail off that. We're at the break time minute where those of you who've watched this before, it's Patrick starts out and what did I get out of this in a minute or so? And David wraps it up with the same. And I'm going to ducktail off of what you said and what your vision is with Evnir, and that AI is your teammate. It is not a tool. And if you are not investing a little bit of time into mastering things of what AI can do, you are going to get left behind. It used to be that if you're not on social media, you are going to be left behind. If you are not getting versed on AI tools and making them part of your team, you are missing the boat. Stuff for me personally that used to take it would take you all day to do something twice, you can now do in 15 minutes. And it will be done better, done faster, more efficient. So it'll be even done while you're working on something else, which is even crazy. And with that being said, I want to apply the other half of that break time minute to just the simple fact, folks, is ask yourself, do you have 100 people that truly can help you with your dreams? Let's talk about where you want to go in life. you probably know 100 people, but who are really the people that are going to help you? And that what help is they're willing to give you the time to listen to you, that have a business that you can do something with, or they have an opportunity or a job that will help you get to where you want to go. Do you know who those people are? And if not, let David's tool help you get there. And most importantly, and it's not to patronize the guy because he's on the screen with you, but you got to ask yourself in anything you're trying to do is, do you trust that person to be the jockey that can bring the horse across the finish line in first place? And if you have a decision that you're trying to make about something or someone or do business, ask yourself that very question. Is that person able to get to the winner's circle? So that's my break time minute. David, who certainly is that person, your break time minute.
Very kind. I just want to remind the audience that not all of your relationships are created equal. So figure out a system that works for you to stay in touch, to nurture, to invest. But if you wouldn't buy anything else, you wouldn't invest in anything else without ideally some sort of a return on that investment. Those relationships can pay dividends. They can pay a return like you've never seen before, but like a plant, like a living organism. You have to nurture them. You have to sustain them. You have to feed them and fuel them on a consistent basis. So, as Patrick mentioned, really try to prioritize your most valuable, your most important relationships. And I want to double down on Patrick's comment. AI really is the wild, wild west. It really is, will change. And you've heard the old adage, you may not lose your job to AI, but there's a high likelihood that someone who's got better AI skills might be able to compete for your job, and a whole lot of jobs, make no mistake about it. And nobody wants to talk about this, nobody wants to hear this. A lot of mundane jobs are gonna get eliminated. White collar, Chat GPT cannot finish construction of that building.
Nope.
You know what it can do? It can review documents. It can do a lot of things that I think we take for granted. So a lot of jobs will, make no mistake about it, over the next 3 to 5 years, and it's not 20, 3 to 5 years. Ton of research shows that a lot of mundane jobs are gonna get eliminated, but they will get replaced by those that have really learned the AI tools. They have mastered some of these AI tools, that have figured out how to help others learn them. So Patrick is right. If you spend 10, 15 minutes, 30 minutes a day just really amplifying your curiosity, you will learn a great deal by a lot of tools that are free, a lot of tools that are readily available. And then you can start investing. You can start, again, if I had to do it all over again, I would coach people how to use some of these tools. I would teach people how to use some of these tools to do their existing jobs more efficiently, more effectively, more impactfully. And I think there's going to continue to be a huge demand for that experience, that expertise that can come in and teach others how to get the most. So you want to learn, you want to become an expert, start spending 15 minutes, start spending 30 minutes online with a half a dozen tools, AI tools that are really not that difficult to learn. And I think you could be really powerful once you start to learn how to use some of these tools.
Well, they say be the hardest working person in the room. This whole episode, we've had one of our high school employees watching, listening in, and that's the thing I'm going to tell you. Be the best at AI. You're going to be the next person promoted. You're going to be the person that's going to be the CEO in the short term. The person who knows how to do that is the person that will win. It's just, to me, I'm actually thankful, David, that you're working on this, and we're both kind of on this same trajectory of, we've built these new businesses that are out of, either in beta or out of beta, just out of beta, and they're going on this hockey stick trajectory, because I'm telling you, the world's going to change in another 5 years. That, holy smokes, people that are the same age as you and I are, if you haven't adapted, you're in trouble. And it doesn't mean that you're not going to have a job, but you're going to be replaced by people that frankly have those skills. And
You're exactly right. And we see that every day. And I just, for our audience, just a quick example. My dad is now 86, and he never embraced computers. He never embraced. He grew up with, ledgers, and his father, believe it or not, used the abacus to kind of calculate numbers, and but that dad, mom was very receptive. She sadly passed through the pandemic, but she had a laptop and she learned how to use some of these tools. Dad just never had an interest. He never had, I don't need that. I can still use my ledger, and he got left behind. And I think the exact same thing is going to happen, as you said, and I believe this, in a much more accelerated fashion.
Yeah.
So do yourself, do your family, do your loved ones a favor, and I don't care if it's early in the morning you get up or late in the day, but if you spend 15 to 30 minutes a day on some of these tools, they're really going to help you reinvent, kind of transform your own skills, your own knowledge into something really powerful.
So David, where can the folks reach you? To want to talk more about Avenir? Where can the folks reach you? To want to talk more about Avenir? Where can they find you?
Sure, very kind of you to ask. The easiest way is just if you Google my name, David Nour, you can find all kinds of background information on me, my work, my books, my speaking. My personal website is davidnour.com. That's where you'll find some of the legacy work that I've been doing. Avenir, you can find at avenir.com. That's AVNIR.com. That's our AI platform. I would love to, again, if you're in a service environment, or if you're in an environment where you sell relationships for a living, would love to learn more about you and figure out if it makes sense to help you use our platform.
Well, David, thanks for joining us again on the Break Time U podcast. It's always a pleasure to have you.
Patrick, thanks for having me.
Hey, Breaktimers, we hope you enjoyed this latest Breaktime University podcast. To check all the podcast episodes out, visit breaktimeu.com. To learn more about David Nour, visit Avenir, that's AVNIR.com. Thanks for listening in. We'll see you on your next break.